My man, Marcus, what is going on, brother? Dude, it's so good to see you. And by the way, the check is in the mail for you to give me some style. I need some consulting, man. Like, obviously, like for those of you guys watching us on YouTube, dude, the wardrobe is on point, man.
Larry, thank you. And thanks for letting me come back, man. I love spending time with you. I love what you do. I love the dad edge. I love everybody involved in it. And I love the fact that people are listening to this because they're saying, I want to be a better dad. It doesn't mean you're a bad dad, but we should all be aiming for something bigger and better husbands. And man, this is my tribe, brother. So honored to be here.
I love it, man. And you and I have gotten to be. We met. This goes back a year and a half ago now. Did you know that?
That's wild.
Isn't
Yeah.
that wild? Like I can't believe we met on David Meltzer's Office Hours show. And to be honest, like going back to my son and I were there, my oldest son Ethan and I were there, and we really connected with you on the night of the social event. We actually closed the place down, the three of us talking. But from a distance, I actually thought you were Garrett J. White. Like I was like, oh my gosh, Garrett's here. Like I was like, you guys look kind of crazy alike. It's really interesting.
I laugh every time you tell that story because I'm like, what a disappointment. You're like, now you're talking to this guy and it's like, oh, it's not even him. How do I get out of this conversation? Ethan, don't you have to go to the washroom or something?
Oh, man. I'll tell you, man, that night I'll never forget, and neither will Ethan. So we were there for a few days and we did that TV show, and then we went to that Top Golf social event, and you were just kind enough, gracious enough. The three of us, me, you, and my 18-year-old son Ethan, just ended up talking for I think at least an hour. And it was so cool because it gave Ethan an opportunity to see what that circle looks like. Really opened his world up. And man, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because like he just sat there and he asked you a lot of questions, and you were just so gracious with giving him just some real world advice. And it's been great. And he is absolutely he has actually had a relationship with you ever since. Like I think you guys text every now and again, which is super cool.
Oh man, I think so highly of that kid. And it was such an honor. Like, when you come across a young man like that who actually wants to learn and he's going to be a great leader, that's like my favorite person to pour into. And it's funny because that was actually the start of something for me. I've really been called to start working with more teenagers. Like God's really put that on my heart. And every time I start working with teenagers, I'm lit up in a special way because, man, teenage years were so hard for me. They were so hard. And had someone like me come along to help me, I would have listened and it would have helped me on my path much sooner. Now, I'm not going, yeah, so I wish I didn't have the past that I had. I love my past. I love the fact that it made me the man I am today. But still to have somebody come along and even encourage you to go, hey, I know you're going through some crappy stuff right now as a teenager. I know it's tough to deal with bullying and divorce and anxiety and all these things. I just want you to know I dealt with all those things as well. And it gets so good. Just keep growing, keep getting stronger, keep accepting that these are the things that you're dealing with. But there is something so amazing that God has in store for you because of these things. Like you're getting stronger every day by having to live with this. And one day you are going to help another teenager who has to go through this. And because you were so strong and you got through it so well, you made a real impact on these others.
I love that, man. I love that. And speaking of your past, I think a lot of people see you have a lot of followers. You inspire a lot of people, and the trajectory to success and this fulfilling life isn't linear. It's not one of those things that just keeps going up and up and up. There are these massive heartbeat blips, right? It's like almost like an EKG. And I know your past, and I know your story, but I would love for you to share just some of the things that weren't certain in your life growing up, and some of the things that were challenging, right? And some of the things you got through.
Oh, thank you. I love that. I love to share this. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit about my history. What I'm hoping you're going to hear is something that resonates with you. that makes you go, wow, I wouldn't have thought I had so much in common with this guy. But the other thing I want people to hear and to know is, yeah, I figured out a ton of stuff and I got through a ton of stuff, but it doesn't mean it's over. And I think there's a real misconception there that, oh yeah, once you learn these lessons, you never have to worry about them again. My life is not perfect. It's spectacular, but I still have crazy thoughts. I still have negative thoughts sometimes. I have down days sometimes, but it's really about creating the standards that I want for my life so that I know where it will go over the long term. But to go back to your original question, I'm a product of divorce. My parents, they divorced when I was 7. It was a real mess. My father, I didn't have much of a relationship at the time, but then now he was out of my life. My mom now had to go back to school full-time, work full-time. So I lost both of my parents that day. That was crazy. But it built a lot of independence. Like I had to learn a lot at a very young age. Took me a long time to accept that though. There was a lot of pain for a lot of years. For the first 15 years, I went through all types of sadness, pain, no confidence, no self-worth. By the time I was 15 years old, I was 6'4", 120 pounds. Doesn't make for the most confident being. Yeah. And shocker, bullies really liked me. The girls did not. And I just believed everything that was said about me. So I was bullied. I had, anxiety. I wouldn't have used the word back in the day, but I'm sure I had a lot of depression symptoms. Fortunately, when I hit my rock bottom when I was 15, I know that's crazy to say, right? I just kept saying there has to be more to my life than this. And it was actually at that moment that I felt God speak to me. And I was invited on a trip with my father and his new family. And now on the plane ride, I felt God say to me, hey, where you're going, no one knows who you are. No one knows that you're bullied. No one knows that girls don't talk to you. So what if you just got to be the person you always wanted to be? What would that look like? And what's so cool about that question, anybody can ask and answer that question right now. I think everybody has the answer inside of them. And that's what excites me so much, to help people answer that question for themselves. What would that look like in your life if you started right now to live the life you've always wanted to live? And so for me, it was, all right, well, I'm a confident guy, right? So I'm going to have my shoulders back and I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm just going to talk like confident people talk. And that's how I was accepted. That's the craziest thing. The world will accept whatever you present. So if you are going to be the confident guy, hey, he's the confident guy. And it's like, what? Don't you know? I was bullied yesterday. How's this possible? And that is all I needed to recognize that I have so much control over how this world receives me. And it's something I want to pass on to everybody. Just make the decision. You want to be a more confident person? You get to be a more confident person. Now, of course, the first step is the easy one. But to do this long term, what you should recognize, you're going to have to start building habits and create standards so that you can be that person always. And I know that might be a big complex thing, but Larry, I know you do a ton of this stuff. Well, if I want to be the super confident guy who walks around with, well, you know what? I kind of want the body to match it. So I'm going to have to do my workouts. I'm going to have to eat right. I'm going to have to treat myself right. I'm going to have to do skin stuff. I'm going to have to take care of my teeth. You set these little habits and these little standards, and all of a sudden you can live into whatever life you choose for yourself.
I love that, man. Let's talk more about these habits, right? Because, I work with a lot of different men, obviously, right? And you obviously work with a ton of people yourself. You have experience with a lot of people. And what I'll tell you is, early on in like my coaching business, right? I used to, I never understood the power of habits, right? I always thought it was good enough to just simply instruct my client on like, go out and do these things, right? Go out and just do the doing part, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest things that I learned, coaching my own clients, and now I do it differently. It's not a way of doing, it's a way of being. but those habits have to be locked in, right? Because otherwise the being just doesn't happen, right? Because and even if we're sort of airy fairy or we lollygag the habits, we still become like this more of this human doing and not this human being, like a way of doing but not being, right? But
Yeah.
I would love for you to just share, like, as far as your personal habits go, like what are your non-negotiables that have helped you with your confidence, that have helped you interact better with people? I mean, Marcus, every time I see you, I mean, I know you have bad days, but I'm convinced that you don't because every time I see you, no matter what is probably challenging in you in your life, you have this way of looking at the world and you choose it just seems like from my perspective, knowing you for a year and a half, you choose this perspective, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit more about how habits and stacking these wins really
Mm.
build confidence, and also maybe the way of how we can evolve into a way of being instead of just not just doing the tactic, but actually being the habit, right? That's aligned with that person that we want to be.
Oh, this is so good. What a beautiful thread we're pulling here, brother. So I also want to mention with what I'm about to say that we all know which habits we should be doing. We do. Like if I asked you, hey, what are the top 5 things that allow you to enter the world as your best self? And this is a huge practice. This is something I love talking about to say, what if you were to try and show up every day at 100%? What would that look like? And so here's my answer, because these are my non-negotiables. Well, I have to get my workout in the morning. I need it. I need the energy. I need the blood flow. I need the right food before I have my workout. I also get hydrated during my workout. So look at, in that one habit, there's like 6 other habits, right? Then post-workout, I've got my cold tub. Gets me fired up and alive, and the amount of discipline it takes to have a good cold tub each day, it's awesome. And I'm not bragging, it's a fact. You get in a cold tub every day and you tell me that didn't require discipline every single day. I need a good night's sleep. And when people, yeah, okay, that's nice for you, not everybody can. Hold on. There are so many things about our sleep that you have to do that a lot of us choose not to do. So how many of us are looking at our phone before we go to bed? That's a huge problem. You have to create a habit that says an hour and a half, 2 hours before bed, I shut the phone off. My alarm goes off at 8:20 p.m. and says no more electronics. So, hey, that's for me because I've got a simple mind. I can't just always just go, hey, it's 8:20. No. So I set an alarm. And the alarms are so good for all of these things. Set an alarm that says, go get your workout. So I've got the right eating, the right workout, the right sleep. Man, just those big ones, because they involve other habits. These 3 are life-changing. And if I do these 3, I am setting myself up really well to show up at 100%.
I love that, man. I love these parameters that you put in place, right? And the 8:20 alarm, right? What do you do though when you're tempted to not obey the parameters that you have chosen for yourself? Like, so for instance, when the temptation comes of you're like, well, I need to do this, or this. So, but the story I'm telling myself is you remain disciplined though.
Mm. This is such a good question, because I think that is most people's question right there. But I don't know if I have the discipline to shut it off at 8:20 every night.
Right.
So this is such a granular, I love that we're getting deep into this. So there are ways. So first, for me, my answer is I experienced the other way for so long. I was totally an undisciplined human being, and I got totally crap results. Shocker, right? So I think very often of, do I want to continue with those results? That works for me. To focus on that, just, it hurts me so much. And especially who I am today, it's like, come on, you are so much better than that. And I'm not saying like I'm better than other people. I'm saying you can use those words. You can go, you're better than this. You have the discipline to shut this off. Now, if you struggle with that in the beginning, I've got some great tips, and I love these. I've used these with my daughters, and they work so well. Find a pain point and a way to hold yourself accountable. So, my daughters, I love this example. one of my daughters, I won't get too deep into the details because I don't want to embarrass her, but she wanted to stop. So let's say she was the one at 8:20, she wants to get off her phone. And she was struggling with it. So I said, hey, I know money's quite important to you right now, and I know you're working hard for money. And I know giving money to your sister would really upset you, right? And she, oh yeah, that would piss me off so much. Okay. How about this? At 8:21, you tell your sister to come in every night and check on you. If you're on your phone, you owe her $10. She was like, oh, that's going to hurt so bad. I'm like, yeah, so do you think you'll ever screw up on that? She's like, there is no chance. 8:15, I'm putting my phone away. So that is, okay, so that's my daughter. Now, for anybody who's like, well, I'm not a 13-year-old kid anymore, that's not going to work. Okay, it actually does work on you as well. You just need to find a pain point. And it can be money or it could be something else. So here's a great example for anybody who's married. Choose a chore that you really hate doing. So for me, I don't vacuum like ever. My wife kind of enjoys the vacuuming. I really don't like the vacuuming. So if I had to do this, I would say, honey, at 8:21, I want you to check on me. If I'm on my phone still, I have to vacuum 2 rooms the next day. That would, I freaking hate even saying that. I'm like, I hate that. I would put my phone away at 8 p.m. just because I'm like, I'm not vacuuming. So find your pain point. And money is also a great one for a lot of people because money is a pain point, period. So you can get a buddy on board. You can get your kids. Get your kids on board. We're talking about the dad edge here. Get your kids on board to say, kids, at 8:21, I want you to come and check on me. If I'm not, and fill in the blank, whatever it is, I got to get my phone or I'm supposed to be working out or whatever. If I'm not doing it, I owe you both $10. You think your kids are going to be running into the room at 8:21? Dad, boom.
I love that, man. So like joyful, relentless accountability.
Yes.
I'd call that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And, we talk about this in the boardroom. I mean, you're obviously familiar with our boardroom. You were a member there for a bit, and Jake. And Jake was the one who pulled these stats that we saw that the American Society of Coaching and Development did a study on accountability. And the main driver for someone who is going to be effective was not just having an accountability partner, but actually having a set time, whether it's daily or weekly or whatever, that accountability partner holds you to your promise and hold your feet to the fire, right? Because exactly what you're just saying, you just nailed it. Why that 95% is so high, because if the pain point or the pleasure, right, is fruitful enough, or, it's not enjoyable whatsoever, that is going to be the point of like, I am going to do that, or I'm not going to do that, whatever that thing is, right? I'm going to hold myself to that fire. And having someone, especially your kids, oh my gosh, if you want to execute well in your life, like right now I'm doing 75 hard. So like, and I know my 2 oldest boys, the one that you met especially, is they're watching every move that I make, right? So they're going to hold my feet to the fire of like, hey man, like, did you take your progress pic today? Hey, did you do your 2 workouts today? Like things like that are so important. But yeah, I love the kid accountability partner. I also love this sibling thing too, because like if we can teach like sibling connection through accountability and discipline, like how cool is that?
Right? And what we're doing is we're actually stacking the accountability. Because
Yes.
check this out, it's not just like, oh yeah, that would hurt to give the money away or whatever. But now, if my kids catch me, again, just going back to the one example, they catch me on my phone at 8:21, I'm actually having to admit to my children that 1, daddy's not quite strong enough. 2, daddy's not quite disciplined enough. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to beat you up. If you fail at it a few times, that's okay. But just keep saying these things to you. Do I want to be telling this message to my kids? Do I want to show them that I can't do it, that I'm not strong enough, that I'm not disciplined enough? To me, that reinforces it. It's like, oh, heck no, I'm not going anywhere near my phone. I want to show my kids whatever you say you want to do, you can do. And let me show you how to do it, guys.
I 100% agree with that, man. I love that. I love leveraging my kids for my accountability. It's really powerful. I want to move on to another topic here that you and I were talking about before we hit record, and that is saving our sexual energy for our wives. I want you to explain that one. And by the way, I couldn't agree more with you on that one. And actually, my wife and I talk very openly about this topic in our relationship. But what does this mean to you?
I love this topic. So get ready, everybody.
This is going to be good.
This is a life changer. Let me start by saying this. When we get into this topic, the goal might seem really far away for you. That's totally okay. It is for most people. It's all about just taking one step in the right direction. You won't be perfect on your first try. You might slip up. That's okay. Just get back on the horse. Wow, there's some weird metaphors going on. Here we go.
I know. No pun intended.
You're right. So here's the deal about saving all of your sexual energy for your wife. Think about what this means in your life. Like, get real granular. Pornography has to be taken out. Masturbation has to be taken out. You're saving all of it for your wife. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But I mean, just imagine a world where you removed these two things. Imagine how that kind of changes who you are. Imagine how much extra time you have in the day. But imagine how you start looking at your wife. She's your only outlet for this. Now, I don't want to sound very crass with that. But what I mean by it is you're going to start treating her a little different, won't you? Think about this. Like, this is your only opportunity. And this is the only woman you look at with sexual eyes. So this is no more like, well, I kind of like this type of woman and this type of woman and this type of woman. My pastor once said this is the most brilliant thing. It's so stuck with me so much. Your only type is your wife. None of this, well, I like a woman that blah, blah. You better be describing your wife in that sentence. If your wife puts on some weight, guess what? You like chubby women now, period. Like, I was like, that's so fun.
Oh, that's great, man. This came from a pastor.
Right?
Oh,
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
and you use those words too. He's like, now you like chubby women. Oh my goodness, it's so good. So you're saving it all for her. That means it can't be spent anywhere else. Do you know one of the most beautiful side effects I noticed really early when I started doing this? Man, I only wanted to look at my wife. I don't want to look at other girls because that leads to other issues, right? Like, how many guys have you got a wandering eye, and then maybe now I'm going to look on Facebook, and then maybe Facebook leads to somewhere else or something. It's all bad. Whereas if you're like, no, my wife is my only outlet, my only opportunity to release sexual energy. Man, do you start really listening to her stories more. You start being more interested in giving her that foot massage, rubbing her shoulders, vacuuming.
Vacuuming.
You hate vacuuming. And all of a sudden she's like, whoa, you're stepping it up as a husband these days. What's going on? You can have that conversation, just like you said, you have that conversation with your wife. It's a beautiful thing. That's accountability. Talk to her about it and tell her why you're doing it, because you know what? I want to be an even better husband. And man, I'm telling you guys, this makes you a better husband. I can't put it any more clear, because you're only focusing on your wife, and it has all these brilliant little side effect veins of positivity. The way you treat her, you're way less likely to get pissed off or yell at her, because again, you've got this thing that's so important as a man, by the way, and that's okay to admit it. It's so important as a man to have an outlet for our sexual desires. Well, guess what? She's your only opportunity. So, should I get mad at her about that? Should I say that snarky comment to her? Should I tell her she looks good in those pants? I think yes. And one of the greatest side effects is, like, I was already obsessed with my wife, but man, I am like super obsessed with my wife. I literally think my wife has the best body on the planet. I think she has the most beautiful face on the planet. And when you start feeling this way and truthfully looking at your wife this way, why would I look at another woman? And what a beautiful goal to get to. Am I wrong?
I agree with everything you just said. And I can agree with it because I didn't used to do that. Like I used to, man, it was so messed up. Like, and my wife and I talk about this very openly with each other. Like I tell her, like, cause we have sex often. But I would tell you that, even if we go through a dry spell, right? Like we haven't had it for like a week, two. So we actually went through a dry spell because we were on vacation. My wife was sick right before vacation, so we didn't have sex. Then on vacation, we were with our kids 24/7. So no, we actually snuck it in one time, no pun intended, on vacation, but it was super fast and it was like to the point, right? And then another week went by. So we like did it like once in like 3 weeks. And I told my wife, I was like, there are times where I'm not gonna lie, this is like really difficult for me. And she's like, oh yeah. And here's the interesting thing. She's like, me too. She's like, when we go more than a week, like it's hard for me, right? And I'm like, yeah, same here. But at the same time, so,
Someone heard you talking.
hey, how much of that did you hear, Ethan? Okay, good. You want to say, Marcus? Ethan would like to say hi to you. Would you like to say hi to Ethan?
I would love to say hi
Hey,
to kids.
thank God he didn't come in here 10 seconds earlier. You would have been scarred for life if you would have. Me and Marcus were talking about marital sex.
Ethan!
What's up, Marcus?
How are you, brother? So good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Talk, what is the most exciting thing happening in your life right now?
Well, I just finished drum major camp because I just got the position of conducting our marching band this season.
Boom!
Yeah.
Massive.
He's gonna
Huge
be
congrats, brother.
Thank you so much.
so cool, man. He had to like interview for this. He had to try out for this. Like, yeah, he's gonna be leading the entire high school marching band, like up on that podium doing that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. Ethan, tell me, what is the number one thing you believe you learned during the interviewing process?
The interviewing process. So one thing that I've noticed from like past drum majors in my band is that we like to, well, not me personally, but other people like to talk a lot of crap on other drum majors because they don't like the way they're like the way they conduct or anything. And they asked me a question that really stuck out to me, saying like, what would you do and how would you react if people were talking behind your back, and like not in a very good way? I said, well, if it was like about drum major stuff and I wasn't doing too good, I would like to make my way to like make it better so I can help the band. But if it was more like personal stuff, I think I would just ignore it because it's not worth my time.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really beautiful. Do you think there's something you can take from that as the leader of this band now and help everybody have a better standard on gospel?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like we always talk about like drama is a huge problem in our like band.
Yeah.
But that was mostly coming from a lot of upperclassmen when I was like a sophomore and junior. But they're gone now, so we might actually have a better chance of having no drama this season.
Amazing, brother. Amazing. Well, listen, with you as leader, I believe it. I believe it's going to happen. And you will create that culture, and that will be one of the best cultures. That could be your greatest legacy that you leave when you're gone, is to have that culture created, and hopefully the next leaders will want to carry that on.
Oh yeah. I want to make the season memorable for everyone. Like, cause my freshman year, it was so much fun. My drum majors were super cool, super nice. I was included with everything they were doing. And I just want to create that experience for all the new guys.
Amazing, brother.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I freaking love it.
Thank you.
I just want to say one thing before Ethan heads out of here. Well, number one, I'm proud of you. You already know that. But number two, for all of you guys listening in the audience, I will tell you I would say at least of my half of my fatherhood journey, I did not understand the importance of what you guys just witnessed. And that is good men with good hearts and incredible intellect who ask really good questions, who elevate our kids and are able to have conversations with our kids that elevate them, right? I think obviously a father is extremely important in a kid's life. But what I think is also extremely important is the people that you bring into your kid's life, right? And are able to have conversations like this. So, and I'll tell you, as you know, Marcus, I've brought Ethan and Mason to summits, and you've been to retreats because I want them to see these conversations, and I want them to be a part of like this iron sharpens iron. So like, I don't want us to, as before Ethan heads out of here, I would love for you to just address the importance for the dads in the audience who, you know, maybe this is not even on their radar, to have other men in their kids' lives that hold their kids to a standard or challenge them or pour into them in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, this is so huge. I love that you're bringing this up. And we have to be intentional about this. It's so rare that this is just going to happen by accident or by chance. Well, maybe it did right this moment, but this is so rare.
Thank God it wasn't earlier.
But by inviting good men who you trust, you know their message, into your child's life, and it can be with you right there, just like Larry's right here. But I just want everybody to think about this for a second, because I know this has happened in everyone's life. Maybe I just said something that Ethan took in for the first time, even though Larry has maybe said it 100 times. How many times does one of our kids or even our wife go, this is so life-changing for me. This is what so-and-so just said to me. And you're like, oh, come on. I've been saying that for 10 years. And I'm okay as long as it got through to them. I don't have to be the messenger. Like, I don't need the kudos for being the one. But sometimes it just takes a different voice. It takes a slightly different angle. So I might say the exact same thing Larry's been saying, but Ethan goes, wow, what Markus said, that's really wise. And Larry's like, are you freaking kidding? That's fine. Okay, good. As long as you heard it, kid. So I couldn't encourage this more. And to get real with this, figure out how to go on these kind of retreats. Take your kids to a summit. Take your kids to a weekend course where you are going with other men, and schedule it ahead of time. Go, hey, can we go out for lunch? Can just the four of us go out for lunch? You know, one of the things I've been trying to work with my kid is blah, blah, blah. Would you mind speaking a few words? And it's not about giving them the words. Hey, Larry, can you actually say specifically this? No, I want Larry to give his opinion, because I already trust Larry. And this is why it's important that it is someone you trust and you guys have the same focus. You don't want them going, yeah, you should totally get into drugs. Drugs are so much fun. And it's like, wait, what? Shut up, man. No, don't tell that to my kid. So, oh man, I love it. I love it. Ethan, so proud of you, brother. Like, I know you are such an incredible leader. And I love that you're getting these opportunities to lead and to become that man that you are supposed to become. And I just want to encourage you. You have been equipped with such beautiful leadership skills. Now's your chance to utilize them and keep growing them. So it's not just, hey, we've taken you in for where you are right now, and that's just where, no. This is your opportunity to go, you know what? I'm putting this opportunity where I can actually learn a ton and become a better leader. That is where you become someone world-changing.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't really look at it that way. That's pretty cool.
There you go, brother. Appreciate you coming in. That was
problem.
awesome. Yeah, feel free to bomb the podcast studio anytime you want.
Okay. As long as it's someone I know, like you, Markus.
That's right.
God bless you, brother.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you do me a favor? Can you bring me my water in here? The silver one. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. That was funny.
That was awesome.
meaning like right before he came in here, we were talking about, like, I literally looked over and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm talking about sex with your mom right now. And I don't know how much you heard, but
he's got a tear coming down.
I know, right?
Why, Dad? Why?
Yeah, why? Dad, how much money do we have in the FSA? I need more therapy. So, like, you know, but anyway, back to that point, you know, I used to actually justify this, which is really odd to me now, but like I used to justify it that, like, you know, having like these self-inflicted sessions of relieving myself, right? That I was actually doing my wife a favor, you know, by like, well, I don't want to burden her and that kind of thing. Like, but you know what? It was actually the other way around. I didn't realize how much I was actually hurting the relationship, because I only had this like, hang on one second. Yeah, that one. Thank you. I only had this linear approach of like, well, me not partaking in that only impacts the bedroom. it doesn't impact anything else. It's actually the opposite. And you nailed everything you just said. Like I was like, once I stopped all that, which has been a long time now, and to be honest, like there are still some difficult days, right? But I will tell you, man, like the emotional attention that I have now for my wife outside the bedroom
Yes.
is so much higher. The conversations we have are deeper. And then when we actually do the deed, I can't even believe, and I heard this before, like I got away from porn years ago, but I never understood it until I got away from it. My physical, mental, emotional senses during sex are through the roof. Like it's so different.
Yeah.
You know, it's two different worlds. I think a lot of us, I know I did not get that, and I did not understand that until I did it. But yeah, I would love for you to speak a little bit more on that.
So I'd love to answer that with this. I want to talk about energy. And, you know, before anybody tunes me out like this is some foofy new age thing, it's not. We all put out a certain amount of energy every single day. And there's good energy, there's bad energy. Like just think about when you've seen a really negative person in the room, what kind of energy, what kind of cloud do they have around them? Whatever you want to say, man, it is dark. Then you have other people who show up in a room and you're like, whoa, what is this? This is like a campfire. I just want to put my hands here. This is freaking beautiful. Well, now think about the way that you approach your wife every single day. Two scenarios. One, I took care of myself this morning. I watched some pornography that I'm so embarrassed about or whatever. And now I'm around my wife and it's like, yeah, she's my wife. And there's this energy.
Yeah.
Then there's the energy of, man, I haven't relieved anything, you know, since the last time we were together, which was a week ago. Man, honey, you are looking good right now. Let me give you a little shoulder massage. Look at, you can just even see the different energy you immediately start pouring out. And you think that she won't feel that? I mean, just think about the way she approaches you at times. And think about the difference of like, all right, yeah, let's, I guess we'll do it right now. Or versus like, we're about to do it. You think that's not going to change your performance? You think she's not going to feel every ounce of that? And that's exactly what you're talking about, Larry. That connection is way deeper. And if you want to get into something more like selfish, I think your orgasms aren't going to be better.
Oh my, yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, the connection to your wife, and then those connections are what actually sustain you through your next argument. Sustain you when you feel like you're drifting apart a little bit, because that will happen. It happens to all of us. But then you've got so much more that brings you back together. Man, we're talking about this is the key stuff in life. If you want that kind of marriage that lasts 21 years, like my boy here, that lasts 20 years, which we're celebrating in just a few months. And man, this is the good stuff. And this is the stuff, if you want those long-lasting marriages that are not just long-lasting, but like joyful, awesome, fulfilling. This is the stuff.
I love that, man. That is so true. I want you to talk about one other thing here, since we're on this topic, because I think we've given the benefits of holding off, right? And how it, and I agree, man. Like I think we all operate on frequency. And I think a lot of us, it's safe to say that to some degree, we feel guilt and shame when we, you know, look at something that we know we shouldn't, right? And even though we might tell ourselves like, it's no big deal, I don't really feel that guilty, there's still that tiny, tiny little bit of guilt, right? That's still rumbling there.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I honestly believe, and I would love for you to comment on this, that guilt and that frequency is way more apparent and obvious than we think. I think it's very deceiving, right? Because it's even if we feel like a little bit guilty, like if I'm with my wife and I know for a fact like that I did not do anything, I saved everything for her, man, like I'm bringing a different version of myself to her, right? Versus the fact of like, well, it's been a couple weeks and I went ahead and did my thing, and but there's still like that thing in the back of my mind that like, but I broke that promise to myself. And because of that, when we break promises to ourselves or we get out of a habit or we slip or whatever, I think that there's this frequency that we give off, this energy that we give off that isn't our true best selves.
Yes. Oh, brother, you are nailing this. Dang, this is good. This is a great conversation. So I love all of this. I'm such a believer in energy. I'm such a believer in like, we don't even realize how much we put off. And think about this for a second, everybody. Whether you've been with your wife 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years, she knows you. Yeah. Just think of how well you know her. Think of when she has some sort of a little secret, not a big one. The big ones are obvious, but even the little ones, you're like, hey, something's going on here. I can't say exactly what it is, but there's something different. Well, that's exactly what she's doing with you, brother. And honestly, women are a lot smarter than us when it comes to this stuff. So maybe times it by 4, and that's how much she knows something's going on. But even more important, one of the things I love that you said, Larry, is we know. And when we know, when we walk into something, there's 2 options. There's one like, man, I deserve this. I feel good. Like, yeah, I'm cleaned up. I'm ready. This is going to be great. And there's, yeah, we should do this, but do I say something? Should I confess this? Like, it's such a different energy, and there's going to be very different outcomes. So at the very least, I hope this conversation has encouraged you to go, you know what? I'd like to at least try what these guys are talking about. So maybe, listen, I'm not saying I'm going to be able to give it up completely, but all right, I'll give it up for a week. I'll do 1 week. Do 1 week without. I'm going to make love to my wife at the end of this week, and let's see what happens. Oh, I would love it if you took that challenge, everybody.
I love that, man. You know, I'll tell you, you know, if you want a challenge, like I remember how this whole thing got started for me. And it was exactly what we're talking about. Like I grabbed some of the guys in the alliance, you know, that I put a post out there. I'm like, hey, I'm going like masturbation and porn free for 90 days. This was years ago. Who wants to join? And I think I had like 42 guys in that accountability group. And I mean, we were all on we all did it honestly, right? We were all, and we had accountability partners and everything. And I will tell you that, I mean, I did it, and I know the majority of the guys did it. I think we had 1 or 2 that kind of dropped off and slipped and that kind of thing. But I will tell you, like, I expected to go back to my old habits after 90 days, be like, oh, it's like 75 hard. And then you kind of go back or what, but I didn't. And it was because of like all these benefits that we're talking about. So like, even if it's for you guys who are listening in the audience, I mean, this, you know, grab a buddy. I know it sounds weird, especially if you're not like in that environment where this is like in our community, this is totally normal conversation. But even if you're not, you know, and you want to challenge, you know, yourself to doing something, like I heard somebody say, I think it was like No Nut November, like where you just basically don't masturbate for the entire month of November.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe that's it. but you know, even if you just did it for, hey, we're going to do this for 21 days, like 3 weeks, right? We're just going to see what happens in our relationships with our wives. We're just going to see what happens with our mentality, all these different things. Like you don't have to like be like, hey, I'm never doing it again. Because I think when we do that in the beginning, like we kind of set ourselves up for failure. I think you have to like taste the fruits of this.
Yes.
And knowing that, you know, this might not be forever. Cause I think the whole forever thing like intimidates people and it forces people back into old habits faster sometimes.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah. But I love that, man. But thank you so much for sharing that.
Brother, I'm reminded of the contest on Seinfeld. And
oh yes, dude.
This would actually work. If you got 5 or 10 buddies together and said, hey guys, who wants to do the contest? It was on Seinfeld. And we're just going to go for whoever can. Now, of course, you're listening to this, so you're going, well, I'm doing it for my wife.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, not only can you win some money because you guys are each going to put out, let's say, $50, but also you're going to have a better marriage. You're going to feel better about yourself. Like there are so many wins in this.
Yeah, there is, man. I'll tell you. And I will tell you this too. There's a productivity element here too.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, granted, like you don't need a lot of time to do this kind of stuff, right? But I mean, like it will take time. And if you think about what you could do, one of the things that we did in our accountability group for that 90 days, and I stuck with it, is to make a list of 5 things that you can do in place of if and when you feel tempted. So like one of the things on my list was write a note to one of my kids, you know, shoot a text to my wife, put a gift in the mail for one of our members. Like some of those things. And I always joke with some of the members. I was like, if you get a random hat in the mail, just know that I was tempted to go please myself. Right? I don't put that in the card or anything like that. But I always like, a lot of the guys know that I'll do that, you know, like I'll send a gift to somebody just because like if I can deter my mind to do something positive instead of something negative, dude, we all win. We all win, right? By the way, Marcus, you've probably gotten a few t-shirts from me. I'm just saying. All right.
Actually, I got a masturbation hat. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, man. It's like, Larry, I got your new book. Why are the pages so sticky? No. Oh man. Oh, okay. So let's segue into one other topic here. And this is something we've dove really, really deep on these first two topics, which I love because I think for the most part, a lot of us out there, we think about these things like, you know, 2 feet deep, not at the deep end of the pool or the 10 feet. You know, you mentioned spending time, intentional time with our kids, right? And we've talked about that so much on this show, but I want to peel back the onion layers on this one so far down the rabbit hole and maybe even say things and talk about things that most people even haven't thought of when it comes to this. So talk to me about this topic.
I love this. Being intentional, man. This is the way we have to live. Without intention in our lives, we already know what happens. The phones, the iPads, the Netflix, it just pulls us so quickly away. And we're just, man, I won't speak for everybody else. I'm not wired to be a great dad. I have to be intentional. I have to think of these things and then I have to execute them. I'm going to also mention something really quick that's a really important principle to align with what we're talking about. It's called baby steps. And we've already actually said a few things in this podcast already that talk about baby steps. But if you're trying to go from I'm an okay dad to super dad overnight, with all due respect, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, with all due respect, I'd bet against you because that's just such a huge leap. I'm going from 1 hour a week with my kids to 20 hours a week. It's like, that's just too hard. Our human brains just can't handle it. So the purpose of baby steps in this principle is I'm going to make incremental changes with intention. So if I spend 0 hours a week with my kids right now, I'm going to spend 20 minutes every few days fully engaged with them. Just 20 minutes. 20 minutes is so doable. If you went, well, I'm going to do 2 hours. I don't know about you. 2 hours straight with my kids, I think they're going to get bored and be like, hey, Dad, can I get back to my iPad? And I have phenomenal kids. So why not 20 minutes? And go ahead and communicate with them. Listen, I would love to do 20 minutes with you. Really intentional. What would you like to do with me if we had 20 minutes together? And if they can't come up with an answer, because I know a lot of kids can't, they're like, you could sit and watch me do iPad, Dad? No. How about, this is funny. This is actually funny for me to admit. My youngest, Bailey, she picked up poker recently.
Really?
And she just loves it. She's like, Dad, can we play poker? And I'm like, okay, we're playing poker again. But that's such good intentional time. And we can talk about things. She's learning how to read people. Like, she's a Kaulius. 1, poker's kind of in our blood. 2, it's great to learn how to read people. Like, when I've been bluffing, I'll be like, what did you think I had? Why do you think I had that? And she starts recognizing the little tells. And then I give her lessons about, like, just so you know, this is life. This is not just reading cards. This is reading people's faces when you're in a negotiation and how to look at that. We played poker for 20 minutes and all of a sudden we've got really deep life lessons. Now, after 2 weeks or 4 weeks of doing these 20-minute increments, now we jump to 40 minutes. It's much easier to do these baby steps. And then once the 20 minutes is set in as a habit, it's hard to go back to 0. If you go back to 0, you're going to be like, I feel like something's missing in my life. It's now easy to keep 20. And it's not so hard to go to 40. But if you try to jump from 0 to 40 or 4 hours, that is such a hard jump. And all we have to do is think about the last time you went on a diet and you went from, I'm not working out at all, now I'm going to work out 5 days a week. How long did that last? If you're like the majority of humans, that lasted like 3 weeks. And then it fell apart because it was too big of a jump. So these baby steps can absolutely change your life.
I love that, man. You talk about, like, what is something that you think men can do today, like tonight, like with their kids? So a lot of guys will listen to the podcast while they're in the gym, on a run, on a hike, on their way to work. while they're working. So like, let's just talk to the man right now who might be listening to this by himself, right? Which he probably is. And he's going to go home tonight and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do a baby step tonight.
I love
What
it.
do you think would be a really good, easy needle mover for a man who wants to be super intentional and just dialed in with his kids tonight?
So good. Larry, you are so good at what you do, brother. I love this. I love you, man. So
You make it so easy.
Oh, man. Like, you right away, you're like, let's take an actionable step. Because, guys, you have to take action on this stuff. You can listen to this all day long. If you don't do anything, nothing's going to change. So let's do this a little baby step. You've listened to us and you're like, okay, I'm going to do something. What do I do? You're going to go home when you get to be with your kids tonight, and you're going to say, one, I just want you to know how proud of you I am. Choose something about them that you're really proud of them for. And listen, I know many adults, many parents, many men out there who have kids in their teens. There's so much you might be going through that you're like, frick, I don't think I am proud of my kid right now. It's not a whole. It's just find one thing. What's one thing that you're proud of? Just focus on that so that you come with that correct energy. I got to tell you, that one thing you're doing right now, I'm so proud of you for that. I would love to spend, do you have 10 to 20 minutes right now? I just want to spend intentional time with you. Anything you want to do right now. Oh, you want to go for ice cream? Great, we're going for ice cream. Even though it's not ice cream night, I don't care. I'm taking you for ice cream. One thing, what would you like to do? Man, do you know how fun that is as a kid to hear from your parent? And be prepared. Yes, your kid might go, oh, come on, Dad, I have this, I've got iPad, I got... No problem. Listen, I don't want to impose on you. But how about this? In 1 hour from right now. Okay, it's 6 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. So I'll give you an hour, finish up what you're doing. At 7 o'clock, you and I are going to spend 20 minutes together. Is that fair?
This is sorry. This has got me, man, by the heart. It's got me emotional. Were you ever asked this growing up? No, I wasn't either. And I'll tell you, whether a request like that doesn't have maybe the result that you want, or like maybe you have a teenage kid's like, well, not right now, but in an hour. I want to reinforce here as like tears are rolling down my eyes, because your kid will never forget that, whether they say yes to it or not. Because those words, guys, if you can take anything from this amazing podcast, and it's amazing because of Marcus, it's that, like, being able to say those words to your kid, they will never forget that. And whether they say, yes, I want to spend time right now, or no, not right now, or maybe you even, if you have an older teenage daughter or an older teenage son and they just seem maybe even annoyed by the request, take my word for it, it will still land. And it will still make your kid feel like the most important person on the planet. And the chances, I think, of them going and repeating a beautiful thing like that when they have their own kids, that will never be forgotten. And I think it's, if any kid had a parent that came up to them and said that, like, that just opens up a connection that is just absolutely impactful, and it's unbreakable over time, especially if you're consistent with it, man. I love that so much. That's so good,
brother. That is so beautiful. You also said something that sparked something for me just now, which is, don't get tied to the results, everybody. The results will come over time when you have good standards. And in this, what your standard is, I'm taking the step forward, I'm creating intention, I'm communicating with my kid. Just taking those steps should fill you. And it will, if you allow it to, if you don't get tied to the results. Yeah. If you're going into this going, this is only a good thing, if they say yes and then we do something awesome, you've already failed. It's not going to land the way you want. So just walk in going, I don't know what the results are going to be. And man, again, if you have a teenage kid, you should not be so arrogant to think you know what the results are going to be. Even my kids, I have spectacular kids. If I went to them right now, I don't know the answer. But that's okay, because as long as I'm taking those steps and with real intention, Guys, remember, real intention, you know what that looks like. If I show up to my kid's room like this, hey guys, if you got 5 minutes, I want to spend some time with you. Does that seem intention? No, I'm distracted. I'm coming and I'm like, hey, do you mind putting that down for just 1 second? I would love 15 to 20 minutes with you. And it doesn't have to be right now. If you're in the middle of something, that's totally cool. I just would love that 15 to 20 minutes from you. And I love what Larry said. They will remember this. Maybe it's not tomorrow. Maybe it's not in a year. They will remember in 5 years. They're going to be like, my dad put in that effort. And I'll always love him for it. Those are the stories. We hear those stories. We hear it at funerals. We hear it at weddings. And you go, oh, man, I hope my kids talk about me like that one day. This is the stuff we have to do if you want to hear that speech said about you later on in life.
Man, I 1000% agree with that. This takes intentionality to a whole new level, right? And I love the fact that the question also allows the kid to think, how can I bring dad into my world and not the other way around? Right. Because I think when we can, and I used to, when I had my 2 older kids and they were little, like I always thought it was our responsibility to bring them into our world. And what I've learned through this podcast, and you just nailed it again, is that how important it is that they bring us into theirs. Yes. Right. And they can take the lead on that. I think that there's sometimes it calls for us bringing them into our world because I think it's fascinating. It gives them more diversity. But at the same time, like going into theirs is fascinating. It's just fascinating. It really is. But I love this, man. Well, you just published a book, Play a Bigger Game, 7 Universal Principles to Experience True Fulfillment and Win at Life. And I know that this has been a long time coming for you. And I watched you a little bit through the writing process. But tell us about, just give us a high level overview of what these readers can expect when they go pick up your book.
Oh, thank you, brother. Yeah, it has been such an exciting journey. It's been wild. And last week, it was launch day last week. And in the first week, I was number 39 for top book sales in all of the US. Number 39.
Oh my gosh, man.
That's right. It's so crazy, Larry, because man, 3 years ago, I'm no author. I don't know anyone in the book space. I don't know what I'm doing, but God called me to write this book. And the book it's called Play a Bigger Game. And it's just teaching and it's just sharing everything that I've used in my life, all the mindset stuff, all the perspective shifts that have given me a successful life, like a life of fulfillment, of joy, of purpose. And they're quite simple steps. We have to do them regularly, but man, these things radically change your life, especially when you take action. Because if you take action on this stuff, I'm telling you right now, if you do the challenges that I lay out in this book, it will change your life, period. I'm so confident in that because this is not rocket science. This is simple stuff. When you read it, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's a pretty simple, of course that would work. Of course that would work. Of course that would work. And it does. And so it's really exciting. And the feedback has already been spectacular, man. I'm starting to share the feedback. One of my favorite reviews just came on and someone said, I'm a healthcare practitioner. And I can tell you that these are the principles that radically change people's lives. And I'm like, what is happening right now? It's so exciting. And someone posted one of my favorite quotes from the book. And if it's okay, I'd love to share it.
Please, yes, please share it.
It truly brings together everything you and I have talked about on this podcast. So it's really like perfect timing. If you aren't willing to do more than what most people are willing to do, how can you expect results greater than what most people experience? And I think that's what we do in life. We just kind of hope. I love comparing it to winning the lottery. I think we all just want to win the lottery, even without buying a lottery ticket. Just one day, somehow money's just going to show up. And somehow happiness and somehow fulfillment is just going to show up on our plate, even though we're doing everything the exact same as everybody else. Really clear what results everybody else is getting, and it's not good. But the people who do more, who do things with intention, who do any of the things you and I have talked about for the last hour, are the people who actually have good relationships, who have fulfillment, who have joy, who have great energy, who sleep better, who have more confidence. Stop me when there's something that doesn't excite you or intrigue you to step up and do just a bit more in life. So my final thought is take some action today. just like Larry encouraged you, just like I'm encouraging you right now. Make a decision today. You're going to do something different. You're going to go to your wife in a different way. You're going to go to your kids in a different way. And you're going to step up and take some action in life that's going to change everything.
I love that, man. I can't think of a better quote. I mean, obviously, we said that here in the intro as well. If you're not willing to do more than what most people are willing to do, how can you expect results greater than what most people experience? So I love that, man. I think we definitely gave guys a lot of marching orders in this around leadership, around even sexual energy with your wife. If you want better results in that department, you got to do things that other people aren't willing to do, right? More intentional with your kids. You got to do things and ask questions and get into their life and enter into their world like most people, just quite frankly don't do. So this really emulates like us as fathers and husbands. Guys, go pick up a copy of Markus's book. We'll have it in the show notes for you. Again, it is Play a Bigger Game. I mean, who doesn't want to play a bigger game? 7 universal principles to experience true fulfillment and win at life. We'll have it in the show notes for you. If you guys head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday168 for the show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday168 for the show. Markus, thank you so much for your message, man. Thank you so much for your friendship and your inspiration. And most importantly, thank you for being a positive force in my son's life. I mean that from the depths of my soul, man. Thank you.
Larry, hey, I just want you to know, I love you. I love your family. I love what you're doing for dads in this world, what you're doing for kids in this world, through dads, through the family work that you do, man. I'm so proud of you. And I know there's days when you probably go, man, have I taken the right steps? I feel burdened or overworked or whatever it is. I just want you to know how proud I am of you. And please text me in those times. I would love to be that guy to bring any light into your world. I think so highly of you, man. And I'm so grateful to be in your circle. God bless you, brother.
God bless you back, man. Thank you so much. And I feel the same way about you, man.
Thank you.